If you've been on the lookout for a versatile and very easy to use video capture solution for anything from home theater DVR use to even some light game streaming on the internet, then stick around because today we're going to be taking a look at the ClonerAlliance UHD Pro, a small box which promises to wrap up all these features into a very convenient package with 4K support. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, then stick around and we'll get into it right after the intro. Alright, so today's video is going to be a little bit different. As I mentioned, we're going to be taking a look at the ClonerAlliance UHD Pro, which was graciously sent over to us by ClonerAlliance for review. And this is basically a capture card that has the ability to not only stream over USB to a computer, but also record onto a USB hard disk. And just in case you're not entirely familiar with the idea behind a capture card, it's essentially a little box just like the one we have here that allows you to take some kind of a video signal, in this case an HDMI signal, and actually save it somewhere else, rather than just displaying it on a TV. The ClonerAlliance UHD Pro is actually very interesting because most capture cards don't offer both USB game streaming as well as USB hard disk support. So for this video, I'll go ahead and use a PlayStation 3. I think it's a good gaming sort of benchmark that will allow me to see how much detail is actually preserved in the final recorded video from both the USB hard drive as well as the recording computer. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on the PlayStation, and what you'll notice is that once it gets input signal, the UHD Pro will actually reset. It'll say HDMI in and show the current resolution frame rate, which is a very, very cool feature. And as you can see, I'm currently using the HDMI pass-through built into the UHD Pro itself. And right now it feels very fluid and very, very responsive. It also looks just as clear as the original input signal as far as I can tell. So if you're using this to capture video from, say, your cable TV service, this should be perfect. Right now everything looks great. Again, this is the HDMI pass-through. I'm currently recording a scene from the game Gran Turismo 5 on the PlayStation 3. This is in full 1080p, 60 frames per second. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is actually record onto the plugged in 1TB USB hard drive that I have connected to the UHD Pro. And that can thankfully be done just using the record stop button on the included remote. So I'm going to go ahead and just begin recording on the UHD Pro. And as you can see, we're starting right now with all of my preferred settings. That'll spin up the hard drive. And as you can see, we are actually recording, and that's being indicated by a recording indicator in the top left corner of the screen. This is only present when you're recording to the actual hard drive that you have plugged in. But with all that said, I'm going to go ahead and switch over now to the actual file being produced by the UHD Pro. And yeah, it actually looks pretty good. It feels very fluid. Of course, on YouTube, you're only going to see 30 frames per second, which is completely fine. It just means you're not going to get the entire feel for the higher frame rate offered by the UHD Pro. So while I do this, I just want to mention that the UHD Pro is capable of recording up to 3840 by 2160 sources at 30 frames per second, progressively scanned. So that's actually pretty impressive. You can record 4K sources directly to a USB hard drive, and it just works. I feel like this is a very, very neat solution if you just want to capture some kind of a cable TV program, as I have mentioned. And it's easy enough just to copy these files over to a Plex server and add all of your media that's being broadcast live to a Plex server for consumption at a later date. In terms of gaming performance, I am actually having a pretty good experience right now, as you can tell. But overall, things feel very responsive. I have absolutely no issue with the latency that I can't feel any kind of latency that's been added by the UHD Pro. It feels very fluid, regardless of my skill that I may or may not have playing games such as these on a regular joypad. The point is, this video actually looks really good. I feel like it preserves all of the visual fidelity of the image itself. All of the colors, the contrast, everything looks correct to my eye. And yeah, so that is the experience recording to a USB hard drive. So we're going to cut back to the actual TV right now that I'm currently playing on, and let's go ahead and stop the recording, which is very easy to do using the included remote. I'm just going to hit the button, and that will save the recording to the drive, and just like that, we are done recording. Alright, so now we're actually at the computer testing the ClonerAlliance UHD Pro's performance as a USB capture card for streaming games over the internet and stuff like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and take a look at how the image compares to the recorded image on the hard drive. And as you can see here, the first thing that I'm noticing is the delay is quite heightened, which you would expect there to be a lot more latency over USB. So you're going to want to make sure that you make use of that HDMI pass-through, which is still possible when you're recording from USB. So you can see we have some stuff going on here. I'm going to begin recording on the computer so we can go ahead and make our comparison. And it can be a little bit hard to tell at times because this is a smaller screen, but I have done some prior testing, and I unfortunately feel like this is kind of where the UHD Pro falls short. This capture card has exhibited very, very similar characteristics to other capture cards that use the Macrosilicon MS2109 chipset, which is basically the chip inside that takes the HDMI and converts it into a USB signal. And this leads to some kind of strange blurriness and artifacting within the image, especially when you take a look at white text on a black background. So if I hit the home button, you can see we have a lot of contrast here, and it seems like vertically up and down everything looks great, but from left to right I notice a significant amount of blur and some kind of chromatic aberration that is not present in the original recording from the hard drive. This is also only limited to 1080p at 30 frames per second, which is kind of a bummer. The USB does tend to skip frames occasionally, which makes things look less smooth, and overall, unfortunately, I don't feel like the USB recording is a very good experience with this capture card. I'll go ahead and go into the same race that I was in just so I can get a very similar clip for the recording, so we can go ahead and compare right here. So as this loads up, but unfortunately I feel like this is the one sort of biggest letdown of this capture card, is the mediocre USB performance. And I will show some other examples of this, but if you look at like the fuel gauges and stuff, I'll go ahead and compare these in the edit. You'll just notice some strange artifacting and colors that don't appear in the other one. And I think a lot of this is to do with the fact that we're running on a USB 2.0 connection here. So the best that this capture card is able to offer is MJPEG compression, which is heavily compressed compared to, for example, YUY2, which this capture card is able to actually provide at 1080p at 5 frames per second. So I do feel like the USB recording is somewhat of a letdown. Now, is it usable? Absolutely. And if you are wanting to just stream something like on Twitch or YouTube Live, it's absolutely going to do a good job. It's not going to look perfect, especially if you are looking at stuff that has finer details. It's not going to look quite the same as a higher end capture card that features a lot less compression, but this is not bad. It's just that the apparent horizontal scaling and sharpness filters that they're putting on the USB feed makes things look unnecessarily not great. I feel like these are just kind of hacks that they did to get as much information as they could through a USB 2.0 connection, which is to be expected. ClonerAlliance does make some great, from what I can tell, USB 3.0 capture cards. I can't vouch for them, I haven't actually used them, but from what I can tell, they're supposed to be good, dependable products that offer good quality. But I think that's pretty much it. This card actually offers a lot of really cool performance, but I feel like it just misses the mark. It offers a lot of the really great features that a lot of content creators could really take advantage of, but in a way that does not work very well. And I think that's kind of the best way to put this, is that it's a jack of all trades, but a king of none, if you will. Would I recommend this capture card? If you're primarily going to be using it for, say, as a DVR, absolutely. If you're just capturing, 1080p or even 4K 30 FPS footage from a cable box or something, absolutely. I'm actually very impressed with the recording quality that this thing puts onto, a USB drive. But again, that's after the fact. You can't do that live. If you are exclusively going to be streaming, or recording gameplay in something like OBS to upload to a YouTube channel, I don't think I can recommend it. I think I would recommend getting a capture card that offers better throughput, that offers a higher bandwidth connection for, higher bitrate video. But with all that said, I think that's about it. So guys, thank you very much for tuning in and hearing what I had to say about this capture card. If you thought this video was helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss any of our future content. And as always, have an awesome day.